in the party, so joined party a little later. So sorry if I have to bore you again for 1 more hour, but I promise it will be more interesting and it will be well worth your time to service your customer better when you walk out after that 1 hour. So I promise you not to bore you with a lot of slide decks or anything. We're gonna talk about is real experience and how I see customers gonna be more excited about the new technologies, the way you deliver the solutions, and how they appreciate the work you and your team to doing together to make them successful. So the only way you can do that is you listen, and you listen a lot, and that's how the Microsoft is shaping their Power Platform, and that is a great success story there. So if we continue doing that with our customers and deliver and at the same time measure how our customers are gaining control over their problems and solutions and how they are utilizing it, where are the gaps, and constantly using that as a feedback, the whole ecosystem becomes very powerful. And we'll today talk primarily using this functionality using Power Platform. So a little bit about that. A little bit about me. I'm from Northern Virginia. I'm delivering solutions using Microsoft technologies, and that includes anything that Microsoft has released so far. And pretty much came from .NET background, late 1990s, and from then on, I kind of started with a content management server, which is MCMS 2002, which was kind of root to the SharePoint system, an entire ecosystem. And then on, it's Power Platform, Power Virtual Agent, bots, AI-based solutions. And recently, it's Azure, Dynamics, and combination of this technologies on-prem and online. So very versed in terms of delivering the solution and making it more flexible for the organizations and enterprise to make their lift and shift strategies. Also, I have been very active on establishing mobile strategy, IoTs, and business intelligence and machine learning using some of those tools that Prashant had mentioned early on. Very close to the AI, as I always think if machine can do our job, we can spend that time somewhere else much more valuable and take machine that kind of interaction, which we don't have to interact with the users. I love users, but at the same time, if machine can do it, I think you can be better valued somewhere else. I have very deep knowledge about multiple programming language. I'm not afraid to say I started with assembly language, in which I started writing the signature recognition programs, which is thousands of the lines of the code to do the mouse manipulations and all. So that is my roots, and well versed with all the delivery methodologies, including legacies and latest and greatest. I have left my Twitter handle and LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where I'm more active, so I put in the code there for you to kind of follow me if you want to follow me. A little bit about Procentrics. I work for the Procentrics, and we are premier solution delivery company, and we deliver almost an multifaceted solution delivery segments. And this is kind of a glimpse of what we do here at Procentrics. Most of our customers are government and federal government, local government, and we are in a commercial solution delivery as well. Our technology expertise are mostly Microsoft, so that's why you see all the stacks that we are delivering the solutions with Microsoft. But we do have our own solutions, kind of a toolkits that we use and kind of go in with not the ground zero, but we have already the tools that we propose the customers to kind of hit the ground running. This allows us to integrate systems better. So these are some of our key marquee products that we use to exchange the data from CRM into the SharePoint, because each platform has its own kind of bottlenecks when it comes to the integrating them together. So this toolkit allows us to kind of bring the solutions very quickly for our customer. So what we're going to talk about today. So I kind of saw that very late yesterday when I was looking at all the buzz on the LinkedIn, and I saw like I got to present this particular topic. And the topic that came to my mind is how do we improve and measure and deliver customer service to the users? What are the challenges? And let's share some of those ideas with the rest of the group, see how Power Platform come to the rescue. And I think among all the technologies and things that I have worked in the past, Power Platform is the platform or the de facto platform that I can see that allows things to put together. Like if you wanted to gather some input from the customer or user or from the field service or wherever, you can literally gather the input, you can process the input, you can analyze it, measure it, you can predict it, you can also engage them back again. So it's like kind of whole platform that comes together when you have to write no code and you have to go really very agile or extreme programming. That's the term I would use, where user just tells you one liner and you build a system that kind of recognizes what they're trying to do and how you can help them to kind of get to their idea into concept into the solution and to the experience the users as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about how Power Platform will be coming to the rescue in terms of what that can do and how to measure what we have done already and take sense out of it. And then we will review some of the solutions that I have kind of put together very quickly, like yesterday night, literally. And we'll do some Q&A. So these are like a couple of high point of customer service challenges. And reason why I say challenges is these are the opportunities, right? So if we are failing to understand what customer wants, we never understood day one what we are doing and how customer will understand us. So most of the challenges will appear if you don't listen to the customer, and then it becomes like a problematic, and then your delivery never happens. Your feedback loop never closes down. So I feel like, whenever you are interacting with the user, whether it's a persona that you're creating, like earlier session I was listening into, it requires really heavy lifting in terms of understanding what your customer or what your user wants, and make sure you kind of jot it down in terms of the few bullets, what we are trying to solve and how that solution can help you to get there. The second thing I see most of the time is serving multiple customers or users. And I use word customer because we are in a service industry where we are always looking, whether it's a user or customer or a stakeholder, they all are customer to us. So when you are working with us, like a VIP or CIO staff or your manager or your manager's manager, I think they all are customer to us. But how do we basically take care of the highest priority request the fastest? So you really are not kind of asking everybody FIFO manner. So there has to be some kind of expedited delivery for expedited request, or a C-class request should not be waiting in a queue bottom, and it become really an issue, and you have to really drop everything and do that one. So I think it allows you to kind of move into the kind of mode when you're dealing with a multiple customer. The other thing I experienced as a challenge is the underdeveloped self-service bot. That Prashant had a really very good idea about, how do we use AI and self-service capability for most common needs. Means if I'm trying to gather some of the basic data about age and what my benefit plans options are, and I'm allowing them to bind those two together and offer to the right benefit plan, you really don't need help desk people to do that kind of job. So most of the time you have to identify those underdeveloped self-service kind of opportunities and start automating them, whether it's bots or kind of common form that you want to use as an intake, which you can implement using Power Apps and other technologies. But those are the kind of things you can really offload some of those activity and make sure you gather all the key indicators that you wanted to gather from the user and make it more efficient. You can always shoot off an email after all this gathering has been done, and you can process them more methodologically instead of dealing with all unstructured data. And sometimes your help desk people missed asking some of those questions, which are really essential to make the decision. So it's kind of allows you to kind of win-win if you develop some of those underdeveloped self-service aspect of it. The other thing I've seen is like approach for outages. Like if something is down, like let's say data center is down or entire zone in which your cloud services are, it's having some power outages. How do you basically manage all those crises when they occur? Do you really have some kind of approach or plan in a place whereby your users know this is happening and you have to basically not worry about this for another half an hour, so your ticket system is not flooded, and you have to take them every single bit of them and kind of update with the some of those kind of things, with the resolution, the root cause analysis and all. So this is the kind of things needs a little bit more approach ahead of the time, so you don't have to deal with when really outage occurs and you have to address your customer and users in a massive manner where they opened all the tickets, your phone ringing all the time. So you get it. So I think this is the kind of area where customer service really stinks, and you don't want to be part of that team when everybody's looking at you as you have no idea what's going on. Versus reality is entire team knows exactly what's going on. Other thing is replying the solutions. It's sometimes always there is a perception from the user's perspective is, oh, this solution takes forever, or I'm trying to implement some small stuff and it takes forever. But they really don't understand there are 7 more requests ahead of them. Even that particular request would require like half an hour worth of work. It really cannot jump the queue unless they really have some kind of priorities assigned to it. So whenever you're trying to gather all this information about the request or items that you're gathering from the users, always establish some kind of a matrices that they know if you do this, this is what your waiting time is. So there is no conflict of understanding when it comes to how my request is going to be handled, and is it going to be slow or fast, or I'm not happy. I think those are the kind of expressions that you don't want to deal with if you make it a little bit more methodological upfront. The other thing is exceeding customer expectations. I think every single consulting people who has at least 10 years of experience, they always want to exceed customer expectations. That's their goal. But the reality is customer is always kind of, they have to give, right? So they will always not give 5 out of 5. So when there is a feedback time, there's always one less, or some people are conservative, put 4.5 instead of 5. So whenever there is some unusual activities happening from customer ranking behavior or feedback behavior, you should have some kind of a logic or algorithms or business logic that kind of asks exactly why there is an issue on particular aspect if your matrices is indicating otherwise. So it allows you to basically machine or computers to take over some of those interactions and making sure that that's not really bad kind of feedback, skewing entire overall performance of the service center. And some of the other two that I have in the bottom is more around failure to kind of study the seasonal behavior. Some of the things that I said, let's say if there is a fiscal year changing and there are a lot of contracts that need to be rewritten, you will see a lot of huge spike in terms of the contracting, having more work over there. So a lot of processes need to align itself. If you know this particular event is going to happen always in September, October timeframe, you can plan your workload accordingly. You can always stagger your planned activities, that you can always shift it, you can always adjust it and set the timing right for the resolution part of it ahead of the time. And the last one is more like a failure to schedule. I think that the last two things are like purely a scheduler related activities, which is if you fail to schedule, then you will never know when to scale up or when to scale down in terms of the services. So when you know from 5 customer service rep to we need to go to 10, how do you know that? And you need to know that ahead of the time, because there is a lead time in terms of making sure everything works like a well-oiled machine. So these are the kind of things I've seen in the past. I'm sure there are many more. There are bad systems or things that you want to bring it in. But I think if we address this, one of this key bullet points, then I think we can really improve customer service in a right direction. So how Power Platform comes into the rescue? What Power Platform has to do with all this? So it's very fundamental. So I always like this chart, and I think every single Power Platform conferences that I go to, this is kind of chart that if you don't see in a slide deck, I think it is injustice to the Power Platform altogether. So what it does is basically there are three major aspects of it: measure, act, and automate. And I think those are the three pillars. Now, if you measure something, then you always can act on it. And acting meaning you can always gather some information from it, or you can write an automated emails, or you can trigger some of the actions in the other systems that you don't know, and you can reduce a lot of data entries and redundancies, and you can take out a lot of activities that you really have all these three pieces figured out. And for each of this area, the Power Platform team has really done a good job of identifying. If you want to measure something, use Power BI. It's really means it cannot be simple than that. If you want to act on something, make sure you have interface which can gather the information using Power Apps. Now, there are varieties of the Power Apps that you can do, whether you want to do the Canvas app route, or you can do the model-driven app, or you can do like some of the other avenues of gathering the information, like a Microsoft Form is also there. But I think idea is to gather the information, and then if you want to trigger something based on one thing to other, if you want to use the glue to glue the two systems together or two blocks together, Power Automate. And it used to be called Flow, but I think now it makes perfect sense that Power Automate, it is the thing that automates a lot of actions and systems that gets together without much coding. So I think these are no code, low code situations where user can take advantage of integrating everything together. The other things, if you look at the top stack, it is more for the power user. So they don't need to really know the programming concept like a while loop or for loop, or much more complex pointers and functions and a lot of other integrity that are attached with it. These are more actual like function and formulas and click and drag and drop kind of actions. Versus what Microsoft has done is there is a developer community, and they have really brought them together by adding the Azure stack of functionality, which is niche in itself. Like you wanted to write some small computing power to your application, which only transfers some of the data, and you wanted to do that using Azure functions, you can do that with serverless computing. Means that's pay only for your computing. And all of those functions can be just really quick turnaround functions, which allows you to do complex computations. You can integrate them into the flow or automate. It's Azure Logic apps that Prashant mentioned earlier. Those are the kind of plumbing tools that you want to put it into the solution, more for the developer kind of community. And I think Microsoft Bot Framework is also filling into this particular framework, this box right there. And some of the data that you see happening at the very bottom layer, which is more, I treat them as a data layer. And that's where the common data services or AI builder, some of the AI capabilities, if you want to just scan the form and make that form data entry happening directly into the system using Power App, it's kind of breeze. You can just scan your pre-structured form, or for example, license that you want to scan. You really don't need to key in the entire name, first name, last name, date of birth from the license or state ID. You can just scan that and automatically it puts into the system. So there is no typographical errors in terms of creating the case in a case management system. It can take the picture extracted from the ID. So there are a lot more capabilities that you can use using the AI builder. And of course, if common data service and AI builder is not filling the tall order, then there is a custom data connectors that you can always use. Like how do you consume your proprietary web services REST endpoints to kind of get the data into this entire Power Platform picture? You can write your own data connectors and integrate it seamlessly in all this entire ecosystem to kind of bring that everything together and make it more like in a one single integrated solution that you are always kind of, and hide the complexity of the solution itself. So I think this slide has a lot to say. You might have heard it many times, but this is the slide that I always carry around. And in terms of like, whenever they say, what is Power Platform? I think this slide does the best job of all to kind of highlight what Power Platform can do. And to the customer and to the developer or to the architecture and to the analysis kind of team. So what I have done is really quickly, like I said, yesterday evening, I thought like, how do I basically put things together for in terms of how do I deliver customer service and how do I measure that's working fine. So Microsoft has one app that I see that is, you can use it as a really good starting point, and you can have BI with the Power BI. You can start capturing and gathering some of the information from it and measure the performances that way. So let me share some of that solution itself and get out of this PowerPoint. So this is, let me know if this is also shared. I think this is different windows, so I just want to make sure you all see this. So this is a service desk application. This is kind of template that is available that you can download and put it into your system. There is a little bit of formulas that you may need to correct it after you kind of configure it into your environment. But what it does is it allows you to basically gather all this tickets data into your Excel spreadsheet, and then you can go through the workflow in terms of like, if there is a new ticket and I wanted to make sure that it kind of delivers, it has its really nice interface by itself where you can put in the comment that you wanted. And then take action, whether it's a ticket is the new status, or let's say it's in progress, and then hit the save. So you can take actions on the tickets with it. And the beauty of this is these we are seeing we can carry it around on a tablet as we are moving, whether it's a field services that you are on or moving around different floors, different divisions. You really don't need to be near computer. You can use this on your mobile devices to kind of update the tickets, take actions, or take the notes right there. So you don't have to go back as a service personnel, or if your help desk function, don't have to go back and take the notes and translate it again. So it cuts the clutter and allows you to kind of manage your service desk tickets in a really neat fashions. It has the function of adding new tickets, just like how you would add. And this is not limited, but idea is this is a framework that is available, and this takes literally 5 minutes to kind of get it into your system in your subscription deployed. And all it does is it basically creates another Excel file into your environment, which I'm sharing here. It's very nicely formatted. All these tables that you can see, like this is, I just deployed it yesterday, less than 5 minutes. And you can see like I added like 3 tickets on top of it. But this is the best way to kind of identify if you wanted to manage the workload in a smaller function or anything that you wanted to capture, and it goes through its own workflow. This kind of solution allows you to kind of gather that data and key data to make sure they are not falling away from your focus, or not falling off of your track. Some of the other functions they have is basically the ticket type. So nothing is basically, everything that you see is really flexible in terms of if you wanted to create another status for the request or ticket, you can create that separately here. You can always add more status cases. You can add more priority types if there is any C-level or VIPs or anything like that you wanted to identify. there are service personnel. So now imagine from 5 people to 10 people team doing delivery for this service request. It can easily go scale up depending on how you put these values into the attendance here. And then obviously for each of this account names, you can define the types. And this is out of the box. It takes literally 5 minutes to get it configured. And once you configured it, it basically allows you to run it exactly how it appears, and it keeps track of all the tickets that you have in a system. You can have tracking of the new tickets in a system, how many in progress, how many closed, and it has its own matrices here, which allows you to keep tab of how many were older than 3 days, just open today, closed, and you can add more if you want. And we will get into the minute how exactly these functions are functioning and how Power App is making things like a breeze. So this is the app that I opened in a same app in my environment. So if you notice what they have at a very high level, they have a concept of the trackers, the numbers. You can always create as many numbers that you want. The only thing here is it counts number of rows in a gallery, and gallery is nothing but this particular area that you see on the right side. You can always get count of that, and it kind of tracks number of requests you have. Now, in terms of the number of open requests that you want to track, then you can always use the filter function to find. So show me all the tickets where status equal to new and count that. So it's very simple Excel-like functions that kind of allows you to do whatever tracking you wanted to do in a same surface computing, whether it's a mobile or tablet, right in that surface in your hand, and make sure that function happens. Other thing that this particular app has, which I highly encourage everyone to look at, is a timer, which is whenever you have refreshes happening. Imagine there are 10 different people servicing and taking service loads in terms of tickets being entered from multiple locations. You may have like multiple people doing entries, and your surface may be showing these numbers, but as soon as the new request is being added, these numbers are absolute. So what this timer does, it is basically it refreshes all the tickets, so everybody gets the latest and greatest. And you can control that by some of the other functions that the timer has, which is you can look at the timer property, and it has 100 here. So 100 milliseconds, it goes back in the back end and try to grab all the tickets. So this is kind of things where, if you wanted to automate the function where you really don't want to have, if surface computer is just kind of a surface and it does not hold any data is always stays back into the backend system. And you can always distribute data, refresh the data at your configuration that you want. So this is a neat little way of, you wanted to have, if particular surface device is compromised, for example, like it's lost or whatever, you could literally have a parameter settings that you can pass on to the backend system and lock down that particular device so it does not have access to the backend system. So this is the kind of things that allows you to do with the timer. It's a very basic function, but if you look at the power behind it, the solution itself becomes really powerful when you utilize these components together. And all we are doing here in terms of the writing the code is, what do we have to do when timer start? Where do we have to do when the timer ends? So, you may want to kick off some of the procedure when timer starts, and you may want to do something when timer is ending. And you can use any function here. You can call even Power Automate flows here as well. So it's not limited to just formulas that Power Apps has. Some of these buttons that they have it on the left side, if you notice, this is basically, it's a static collection type, and it has a ticket type. So, different ticket types, they have organized this onto this particular tab. If you notice, there is a ticket types. So all of those options comes from here. And then on load of this particular page, they are showing what exactly need to be done in terms of in terms of the action, and these actions are defined at a very page load event of it. So this, if you look at, again, this is Excel-like formula where if someone presses the all ticket as a button press, then contacts will be updated to all. So it will bring all the tickets. And then if someone clicks on a new tickets, the contacts will be updated to the new, and it will take actions for the new. So it's extremely flexible. I don't know if you have downloaded the COVID-19 app that we use it at our corporation at Procentrics. It's exactly similar framework where nothing is hard coded. It's just extremely flexible. It allows you to control the app from the data perspective. So this is very powerful in terms of writing formulas and making it more breeze. Some of the other things that I've seen here is very basic in terms of other user interfaces where, if you wanted to see on the ticket details, this particular function has all this input fields that you wanted to show, and then there is a save button. Now, save is the action where you would just go and click on a submit form, and then whatever the form name is, what it does is it takes you the burden of you taking the data and submitting to the backend system. Now, in this case, it's Excel, but it could literally go to the SharePoint, or it can go to the custom SQL database in Azure. It literally possibilities are endless. Or you can sync on two different systems at the same time. So if you had a service now and you want to sync that data over there, you could write a custom web service which kind of takes the data and replicates the data in both the system if there is a ticket which is needing that kind of synchronization. So this is very powerful in terms of what you get in like 10 minutes, the templates to start with, and then you can customize it to your need. And obviously this data points that they are capturing is just for the sample purposes, but you could add a lot more data points that you wanted to add and make it to fit your need. So this is a very simple UI. I would highly encourage people to kind of download this help desk app and kind of see how they have done it. I think that gives a lot of good coding best practices if we are dealing with the Power Apps development, and really get the ground running with the best practices, when to use collections, and how do we make sure your app is really not slowing down on you, and how do I handle my data without making multiple calls back into the backend, and make sure that I can only bring the data that I need in a surface. So having said that, that's kind of a I wanted to show more like from a app perspective. I have done really very quick drag and drop of in a Power BI out of that same data. So what this does, basically, there is a one piece where I'm trying to capture some of the user input from the user, and there's another piece where how do I know what I'm dealing with? So this is that piece, which is Power BI allows you to see your data in a very different aspect. It's basically, it kind of brings all the data that you have and in a manner that you never would have thought. So you can see multi-year picture and say, oh, by the way, my peak was in 2008, and we were getting a lot more complex requirement then compared to 2019. In 2020, we are settling down. So we are more optimal. That doesn't mean we are not getting more complex requirement, but we know how to deal with them now, right? It's stabilizing. So there is a period of the peak, and there is a period of stabilizing. So that's where the value is for the customer. So they are not giving less complex requirement, but we know we are more normal to those complex requirement. I think that's what our BI is telling by looking at this chart. So and this is nothing but all we have done is we have taken the delivery dates and plotted against the complexity and see how exactly those dots are telling us on a multi-year basis. Similarly, we have done the request by priority, which allows us to see how many priority high kind of requests we are getting. And you can see by looking at those ribbon charts, we are now becoming more methodological. In a previous place, everything was kind of medium to medium high, which is kind of this, what you have here. So it's it it tells us now we are able to control that, bring it down, and now really high is the high. So sometimes it's very difficult for a developer or customer to understand what is medium, high, and high. So when this customer service becomes more automatic, more mature, these are the kind of results you get. You would stay away from the pike and spikes that you see, or abnormal spikes that you see, and it becomes more natural, and it kind of allows you to kind of plateau your curve a little down and more manageable, and you can always kind of reassign the resources that you would have used into this particular help desk into some more new developments and new activities that can help customer much better. And all of this, the charts and things that I've used, nothing is complex or complicated at all. These are all out of the box visuals that I've used. So, if at the later, I will go back to the chart window. If you have any questions, I can really address them. But idea is we are using our own data that we are collecting and solving and servicing the customer, and using the same data, we are making our decisions in terms of how do we improve that, and where we are doing wrong or where we are doing right. And if we are doing something right in some place, can we repeat that and make sure the other places we are not seeing those spikes. So this is kind of delivery that we are seeing, and delivery is kind of consistent load, but at the same time, as you can see, we are able to manage much better. We are managed to act more swiftly compared to when we started off. And this is the program start, and then how it kind of gone up, and now we are kind of managing our expertise. Similarly here, I have ranked them by the hours, so different services that I have. Now Power BI has its own way to kind of see how exactly you can see a particular solution category, whether it's a high, low, or medium. You can see the workload that you can track, or you can see what are the heavy hitters, where we get more requests, and it kind of allows us to identify a niche application development to address some of those things. So this is really a thing that you can use to identify without opening many tickets. Means what we are seeing here is thousands of the tickets, but much more we can analyze them much better compared to looking at all those 1,000 tickets and getting lost into what exactly customer is trying to do, or behavior is missing, or did we quick enough for solution. This is yet another visualization of solution category and resource utilization in terms of the complexity versus the normal. And as you can see, we're able to plateau the curve really very well. And in terms of the scheduling them, in terms of the delivering in time, and whether it's complexity high or low, you can see it kind of helps you manage your load. And your meaning, and if we are servicing the customer, we are managing their load, and they don't have to be feeling like my request is always at the end, or it's taking forever to get to service. This is another facet of the same data, but this is more like an year-to-date kind of picture. So it kind of allows us to kind of see what are the activities this year we are spending more time on. So it may happen like, as systems are developing, they may get stabilized at some point in time, and it becomes like a little lower category in terms of their distributions, number of requests you can get. So this is really good way of keeping tab of what is hot and heavy, and how do we take care of them. So this is year to date. Again, within year to date, as you can see, like I was mentioning earlier, like some of the seasonal behaviors, as you can see, like May and June are a little higher compared to the all other months. And that this is the kind of things you want to learn. You don't want to wait for another year. If you are there for customers, whether it's a customer engagement, or you are doing some product servicing or customer service function for an entire universe, where your customers are really bigger universe than anything else. This kind of analytics allows you to kind of measure and see how exactly you need to implement some of the solutions around, whether you want a chatbot in there to kind of what only comes to measuring the performance and acting on it. So, and Power Platform has all those flavors where you can provide multiple channel support, but make sure you choose the right channel for right purpose. So, it kind of makes it more easier in terms of the maintenance, and you're not overwhelmed by what channel is providing what data. And this is more like detailed view for last rolling 2 months. So you kind of know if this is more overwhelming, then you can always, looking at the bar Gantt chart, you can see we would probably need more time down the line. If something is plateauing down, this allows you to plan something more in the future. So as you can see, these are the kind of measures that allow you to kind of move forward without really scaling. So I think my earlier argument was, how do we know we need more versus less, or we can stream down, or we need to schedule? So in a way that, you can flatten this number of requests into more vertical. So that way it allows you to stay at the same team size, but you can always stagger the control. But you want to explain this better with your customers so they are aware of it. If customer is not with you, I think you never understood them. And then what happens is it would be a kind of burning bridges when it comes to the communication. So I think fair communication and open and factual in communication allows us all to succeed in the right direction. So this is the kind of same data set that we saw in a out-of-the-box app, but this is more like getting them onto the Power BI to see how we can take the advantage of the Power Platform to kind of see in there. I have one other app that I'm using that I did it with the Power Apps, and I have built my small LLC business where we use the property management, and I use Power Apps to do everything, and Power Apps Flow and Power BI. That allows me to kind of do all the property management that includes everything to do with the property management. So what I'm going to show you is, like, I have a little demo environment that I created within Power Apps. So I can do multiple customers at the same time. So depending on the drop down, it basically picks the data and kind of allows me to see only that particular service segment. I think it was idle for a long time too. So let me see if I can. Perfect. So this is like an extremely flexible app, which I can configure for that particular customer, that demo environment I have, how many property I want to configure, and each property, how many tenant can stay. So, this is extremely flexible property management application. And it allows me to go into the customer service function right there. And it has all budgetings and all the other functions. But what I wanted to highlight today here is the customer service. So if I have some to-do task, I more treat it more like a service call, whether it's a preventive or it's a complaint or it's a thing that you wanted to schedule. All of that, you can track them, and once it is whether available, or you can add more notes. And hit the save, or you can resolve the ticket to whatever that status is. You can see for that particular tenant how many requests are open or closed. You can always reopen something that was closed before. So if something was closed accidentally, you can always toss it back into the open. So this is a very basic function, but every time I do this action on a back end, it generates a lot of data. So what I do with that data, I use that to kind of do the same thing that we did earlier with the Power BI, which is bring that data back into this Power BI platform and see how exactly you can make sense out of it. Which months are more busier in terms of the schedule maintenance versus preventive maintenance. So you can stagger some of those behavior and make your, instead asking customer to come in different timings, you basically schedule some of those preventive activities in a months where you are expecting less number of tickets, right? So this is basically allows me to evaluate, and this is test data, so it does not have much. Like I literally created this property profile yesterday, but you can see it really does very good job of gathering the data and see where my peaks are and where my downs are and how do I act, and it keeps track of what are the things which are open, how am I doing on those, and what are the things which are closed recently and how did I do. So this is another example where technology allows you to do a lot more things on the go, where I don't have to need to have a system in place to work on and still provide best customer service to my users. In this case, it's more my tenants. So this is example of that. And then I wanted to show, I think, a couple of other things where we did a lot more AI related activities, where we used to take the voice prompt, voice notes, and transfer the notes into the CRM, and act more precisely on those notes. So for the enforcement kind of people or users, what happens is they cannot take notes. They have to say everything in the microphone. So we wrote our own custom data connector, which converts speech into text and speech to text using Bing API. And using that text, we update our case profile on a case management system in CRM. So a lot more we have done in this area where we use AI with the Power BI, Power Apps, and Power Automate. Those are the kind of tools. They're maturing much more faster, and you can make really very easy on your users, your customer, or your peers, or within the office. You wanted to automate something. I think this is definitely a much promising technology that will get you from legacy mindset to mobile, hands-free, on-the-go kind of environment. So let me go back and see how. Who do I have next? Yeah. So that's all I have. I wanted to make sure that I leave some time for the questions and anything that you may have in terms of follow-ups. Any reaction, any questions you may have?
Thank you, Hemendra. So that was a really good way of showcasing how to build your own case management using Power Platform, which was a bit of a fear for many of the previous Dynamics customer service consultants until it's all come under together. So that's how you do it, folks. That's how you build it. But out of curiosity, Hemendra, which data source were you using?
So we used almost every data source. We have used the SQL Server on Azure. We have used SharePoint as a data source. We have used Dynamics CRM as a data source. Our case management system is fully done in SharePoint and Dynamics CRM, because all the documentation which goes into the SharePoint for better search and query capabilities. But we do have our custom framework, a solution that I was mentioning earlier, ProLink, which allows you to seamlessly exchange data between CRM and SharePoint. And that's our proprietary source for our secret sauce for entire solution. But we pretty much work seamlessly between all these platforms using these services.
Nice work, definitely. So does anybody else have any questions? This is the last session and there's only 8 minutes left. Abhijit is saying, thanks a bunch, Hemendra, for an excellent presentation.
Thank you, appreciate it. I cannot see the chat window just because I am sharing my entire screen. But if you have any questions, if you could echo it to me, I can address them.
Definitely. So yes, so we have about 5 minutes left for questions. So please feel free to ask any questions. I'm sure you have many, as basically Hemendra has shared obviously his Power Apps, his Power BI dashboards. So David Ollie is saying, cheers, Hemendra. Let's share Hemendra's contact details, his LinkedIn. You can connect with him on LinkedIn. Do you have a website or a blog as well?
So I'm very good contributor on enterprise solutions group, which is on the SharePoint, which is on a LinkedIn. Once you connect to me, you'll see it's one of the largest group for Power Platform and entire family of the product in terms of the SharePoint or Power Platform altogether. So one of the largest group in LinkedIn.
Okay. So okay, I am just going to share your contact details in there. There you go.
And I'm here like a Washington DC base. So if something you really have a complex business needs or something, do reach out to me. I can do my best, do some kind of community services, and see how your solution can shine without breaking the bank.
That's great. Thanks for that. Yep. So I think that's it from everyone. There's one more question from Abhijit, which is user impersonation allowed in Power Apps somehow?
So user impersonation is something not allowed automatically. But what I have done is I have created my own user schema where I could be logged in as a reader, and at the same time, I can logged in as an admin. So it is pure solution framework that you want to use. So you can configure one user as a reader to the app, and other user more like an administrator to the app, and third user could be just everything. So it allows you to limit the roles based on the functionality. But if you wanted to do this with impersonation, it would never work.
Okay, great stuff. And then Abhijit is asking, how can we achieve that in the real world?
So, like I said, if, for example, if my recruiters only needs access to creating positions, but they really don't need to see the technical evaluation piece of the app, what I would do in this case is I would create roles for my apps in a data store itself. So based on the user that logged in app, you can get the user handle by using user function and check that against your security model. And then you can present the UI based on that. You can disable some of the buttons because you can very easily disable buttons based on the role. There is Azure groups that you can utilize if you are really smart about it. If you want to have extremely flexible app, which you want to control totally rule-based, you could use that. But it's totally up to solution architect how they want to see and achieve kind of flexibility in this app. I would highly recommend implementing the data structure to allow you to implement the flexibility. So you don't have to really rely on mercy of Power Apps coming up with those functions or not. You are extremely flexibility regardless.
Great stuff. So again, thanks for that. I think a lot of people were interested, and it's a really good use case. It really is. It really changes the way we would deliver an application that was traditionally a legacy type of customer service solution, and it feels as though Power Platform is definitely our version of microservices to be able to deliver a similar experience or a more flexible experience. So again, and Abhijit saying, excellent, that was helpful. Thanks, Hemendra.
Excellent, thank you. And I'm really glad people still, I was hoping that we will have probably 5-6 people participating in this. The crowd is really engaged into this whole thing. I know how difficult it is without having any breaks in between and going end to end. It's such a marathon, very good lineup. Really kudos to the organizers and those who really worked hard on putting this together. I know you have worked really hard till yesterday evening and even going nonstop from morning to different time zones and all. So really appreciate speakers and everybody. So good work, guys.
Yeah, thanks again, Hemendra, and it was a pleasure hosting you. And just for everyone, we've got 3 minutes left. So just to remind everyone that next week it's Sales and Marketing Saturday. On that note, so Sales and Marketing Saturday. We've also got Field Service Saturday as well. The week after we've got Field Service. So next week is Sales and Marketing Saturday. The week after that is Retail and Commerce Saturday, and then the week after that it is Field Service Saturday. And the week after that is Power Portals Saturday. Yes, so we've got a lot covering, and then we have CDS Saturday. Later on in October, we've got CDS Saturday, so it's everything on the Common Data Service deep dives. A lot of people who are new to CDS, it'll be a really good opportunity to cover that. We also have a Governance Saturday as well. So we've got Manuela and everyone who's in the product group are involved in that event. So we've got a lot for you. We've got a lot of events coming up for you. So it feels as though it's been long, but we've still got lots more to cover. So again, I want to thank everyone, all the speakers. So thank you again, Hemendra. Thank you, Prashant.
Welcome.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Arpit, and all the speakers that were here today, who gave really, really fantastic sessions. There were so many speakers. Thanks you all. Thanks to everyone. Thanks to Narayan for helping with the session recordings and with streaming it to YouTube and supporting you all. So thanks everyone. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. And we will be sharing the videos shortly. This month we're actually also awarding prizes, believe it or not. So based on the sentiments of sessions, we're awarding prizes to the speakers and attendees. So that's also going to be happening this month. So a lot to look forward to. But once again, we couldn't do this, guys, without the speakers. So once again, a big round of applause to all the speakers, to the attendees for asking your questions. Your questions mean a lot to us because it helps us to understand what you're trying to achieve, and so that we can understand your problems better. So I want to thank everyone all around the world, all the speakers from all around the world, all the way from India to Europe to Canada to North America. We've had so many people from all around the world to deliver sessions today. So thanks again. We will be carrying on next week and the week after that. So I want to thank everyone. Have a great weekend. Spend time with your family. Well. Oh, Narayan's back. Hi, Narayan.
I have been back. Yeah, I was monitoring.
Hi, Narayan. Have you got any words for everyone?
No, it's a fantastic event. I was really glued to it until I was literally in front of the screen.